So YouTube is working on implementing this new system that has a lot of YouTubers in an uproar. Like, it has a lot of YouTubers very, very, very pissed. It depends on where they come from, what type of channel they run, and what type of things they allow on their channel. I don't know a ton about this. I haven't actually been able to find an article about it personally, so I don't have the factual information about it. All I have is what a couple YouTubers have made in their videos. So I was watching one of Mr. Epsilon's videos. He made it recently where he talks about this issue, and he explains a little bit about what the issue is, how it affects him, and his thoughts on it. So the issue is basically that YouTube is implementing this policy that makes it so paid sponsorships, where a sponsor pays a YouTube partner to make a 30-second or so video, part of their video dedicated to promoting a certain product or company. And then the transaction is solely between the sponsor and the partner. YouTube has no part in this whatsoever, and YouTube doesn't generate any revenue from this advertisement whatsoever. YouTube doesn't have any role in this whatsoever, except for that it's uploaded on their website. But even so, the advertisement is placed at the beginning of a video. So a video that someone was already going to make, this advertisement is just placed in front of that, and then the rest of the video is played out. And YouTube is trying to get it changed so that that is not allowed. Instead, the sponsor has to go through YouTube, so YouTube can take a 50-50 cut with the partner. Therefore, if, let's say, Mr. Epsilon was paid $500 for him to upload that 30-second advertisement, instead of Mr. Epsilon getting $500, Audible or whoever wants promotion will have to go through YouTube. And therefore, Mr. Epsilon will only get $250, and YouTube will get $250, even though YouTube played no part in this whatsoever, other than being the host of where the action took place. Basically like a house cut of 50%. And this raises a lot of questions. Well, number one, is it a good idea? From a business standpoint, yes. The main point of a business or corporation is to generate wealth for its owners and for the company itself. From a demand perspective, is it a good idea? Here's where it's a little iffy. I'm not sure. This is kind of something that I think an economist would have to think about instead of someone like me who's a business major, not an econ major. But will their demand go down? You see, because the original transaction was between the sponsor and the partner. Now the transaction will be between the sponsor and the sponsor and YouTube, and then YouTube will split the money with the partner. So in terms of the sponsor directly, nothing changes. They don't have to pay any differently. They don't have to go to anyone else. They just have to go through YouTube. That's it. They just have a centralized place where they pay, and then they can still get these advertisements placed out. The question then is, because YouTube is taking a 50% cut, will YouTube partners take less sponsorships or require more payment? Because Mr. Epsilon was originally getting paid, like this is just a made-up number, but $500 per video that he did for Audible or whatever the company is. And if they go through YouTube, then he only gets $250. So would he still accept that deal and take the $250, or would he only accept it if they doubled their price so that he still gets $500? Therefore, Audible has to pay $1,000. $500 goes to YouTube, and $500 goes to Mr. Epsilon. I don't know what the effect will have because it depends on what the partners are willing to accept. This doesn't affect me personally because I only had one sponsorship before on my old channel, and it was a Acidic Customs, I believe, or Acidic Gaming. Yeah, Acidic Gaming. I was sponsored by them, and it was a different kind of sponsorship. They didn't pay me to advertise their company. They just gave me a link that I put in the description of my videos, if someone went to that link and bought a controller, I'd get like 15% of the profits or something like that. I don't even remember what the deal really was. And then I would get like certain rewards at certain times if certain amount of people bought X amount of items. Like that's basically how it was ran. Wasn't even hosted on YouTube. It was just I would have the link in the description, and I didn't even have to share it there. I could share it on Twitter. I could share it on Facebook. I could share it anywhere I wanted. YouTube would just be one of those places that I could share it. So YouTube would have no way of regulating this because regulating my type of sponsorship, because they can't tell what a link in the description would go towards, if it's a referral link or if it's just a regular link to a company where I'm just talking about the company, or if I'm getting any sort of benefit from it, because I could be promoting a company like Acidic Gaming because I like their controllers and I'm not getting anything from it, or I could be using a referral where I am actually getting money from it. So this doesn't affect me. I'm coming from an unbiased perspective when I bring in my opinion on this issue. So yes, from a business standpoint, I think it's a good idea. From a demand standpoint, I don't know, but I think it works just fine because YouTube now is generating revenue from another source. So even if demand goes down for the sponsors, there's just a new source of income. So even as long as there is some demand, they're still earning more money than they were before. It just sucks for the partners because the partners are losing potential sponsors and money. Now, morally, what do I think of this? This moral issue. I think this is plain wrong. I understand why they're doing it, but I think it's wrong. I think that YouTube already takes enough money from their partners, because the money earned from through ad revenue that each partner earns, 55% of it immediately gets taken by YouTube. Immediately. And then the other 45% is then sent to the network, and then the network has a split. And so the money you're actually earning isn't like 60% or 70% of the actual total earnings you earn. It's far smaller because 55% is immediately taken away by YouTube. Now, I know this revenue would not be generated without YouTube, but it's still something to keep in mind. YouTube already makes a ton of money from ad revenue. And YouTube has amazing profits. Even in a kind of crappy economy, they're still driving profits. That's amazing. And so now, not only do I take this cut from the partners on ad revenue, they're trying to get it from sponsorships, which has nothing to do with YouTube. These sponsorships could be advertised anywhere. Twitter, Facebook, any website, social media, over Skype, in a live. If Mr. Epstein went to a live event, he could advertise Audible. And people would be like, oh, shit, okay, well, I guess I will check out Audible, whatever. So I don't think it's right that YouTube's trying to generate this extra amount of money from their partners, because there are a lot of people like Mr. Epstein who rely on the income for a living. Not only for rent, but for food, for insurance, for their car, for gas. They rely on this money. And Mr. Epstein talked about in one of his previous videos that the money he makes from ad revenue is so small that when he takes these sponsorships are godsends to him. Because he struggles, and basically doing one video could basically pay his rent for the month. One advertisement, and he would do multiple. And so these people who need this money are now getting basically 50% or more taken away if the sponsors are not willing to pay the extra amount if they have to. All because YouTube just wants to generate this income from this transaction that they don't really have a part in. So yeah, obviously, I understand where they're coming from. As a business, yeah, I would consider doing the same thing. I wouldn't, because I don't think at that point it's wrong. If YouTube was a lot smaller and when I say YouTube, I mean Google, because I know Google owns YouTube, but if YouTube was a hell of a lot smaller of a company and they were struggling to break even, then yeah, I would say, okay, that's a good way to do it, because you're not going to take more from ad revenue. You're just going to take it from a different source where revenue could still be generated by both parties. So that way YouTube can stay up. But YouTube isn't having that problem. They're doing very, very well. And I don't think this is a necessary move by YouTube. I think it's not needed whatsoever. And from a moral standpoint, I think it's actually really wrong. In a lot of cases, it's atrocious. Anyone who derives their, probably 80% or more of the revenue from YouTube that actually makes a living off of it and does sponsorships like this, it's very well going to screw them over. And that's just not something you should do. You should try to promote people making a living off of YouTube. When someone makes a living off of YouTube, they dedicate more time to the videos. They produce better content. They produce more content, which would just drive more revenue for YouTube and make more better videos on YouTube, more entertainment. That's what YouTube should be promoting. And if you take money away, then that's a problem, especially from people who need that money. If I were YouTube, what I would do is I would hire an economist, and I'd have the economist look at the numbers, because they obviously have enough years of data that they can make these estimates to make a guess at where we would still make really good profit, but cut down on our ad revenue percentage from 55% down to like 30%. And not have to do this sponsorship cut thing, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what they should do. And if I would do that if I owned YouTube, or if I was a decision maker for YouTube, that's what I would do. I would hire an economist to look at that and tell me what percentage they think I should charge so that my company still makes profit, but that we can promote and encourage people making a living off of YouTube, because it's a very viable source if you know how to do it right. And you can create great content. You can have a lot of fun. You can have a great life by doing that. You can make a career out of it. And it's something that I think YouTube should work on. I hope they do. I really hope that they turn tides and they, go for a different goal. They go for the goal of promoting that. I don't know if it'll happen. In fact, it probably won't. But, got to remain hopeful.